Alright, so in this video I'm going to be talking about something pretty straightforward, just the biggest habits that I've noticed a lot of players have in each, or with each character, right? I just think that that's an interesting thing to talk about, and I kind of wanted to address that, maybe make everybody a little bit more aware of their game style and the way that they play. So I'm going to be taking things in a relative order right now. I'm going to do things in alphabetical order. So we're going to start with Alisa here. So right off the bat, obviously, the biggest bad habit that Alisa players do, you don't even need my opinion on this. It's just chainsaw abuse. You know? Like, they'll just be doing this. And that's their game plan, right? They don't have really anything else. They can back away easily enough. You know, a lot of them will do this type of shit into a fucking power crush, into chainsaw bullshit. Or just enter the stance by going, you know, down 1+2 into destructive mode. And that's all that they have, is just the ability to use her chainsaws, and no matter what, if you hit them out of chainsaw stance, or a destructive mode stance, then they will do everything in their power to ensure that those chainsaws are back out and ready to use as soon as they fucking can, because without the chainsaws, they don't know what the fuck to do. They're terrified to not use the chainsaws. So, biggest bad habit with Alisa players is too much chainsaw usage, not enough Tekken. And that's a bad habit because even though it's super effective now, and I see even God of Destruction rank Alisa players do this type of shit, it's a bad habit because once these chainsaws inevitably get nerfed, which they will, what are you going to do? You're either going to drop the character Alisa, or you're going to stop playing Tekken in general, or you're going to start getting heavily demoted and get really, really pissed off and then start doing Reddit posts and Discord posts and commenting on YouTube videos about how angry you are that Alice is so garbage now, when really it's just that you're really bad at the game. You didn't learn how to play Tekken yet because Alice's chainsaws are so effective and they're so brain dead, and you've allowed that to be your entire game plan for every match you've done, and it's carried you all the way up to God of Destruction. It does happen. She's a very effective character. So, biggest bad habit for Alisa is just abusing the chainsaws too much. So, I think if you were to incorporate more, like, look how good this movement is. Her sidestep is incredible, her backdash is incredible. You know, she has a shit ton of moves that are fucking good. You don't need chainsaw shit. You got a bunch of moves that are really fucking good with Alisa. You know, a safe down forward too. You know, a hop kick that you can actually... You don't have to commit, you know? You can... There's a whole bunch of shit that she has that's really good. So, you don't need to use the chainsaws, and only the chainsaws. Use the chainsaws, but don't just rely on them. That's a bad habit. So, and that's a habit that Alisa is going to inherently teach you. So yeah, that's my opinion on Alisa. We're gonna move on. Next up we have Asuka here, and Asuka is similar to Alisa in the fact that she will certainly teach you to rely on the character's bullshit more than she will proper movement and sidestep and backdash. All that stuff is so important to fundamentals, yet Asuka says, fuck off, you don't need any of that shit because we have this reversal, it's really good, we have a really strong Sabaki, we have heat engager that's safe mid and comes out of a sidestep that gives a slightly bigger sidestep in whichever direction the move comes out, and if you sidestep right, it improves the sidestep to the right slightly more. Same with if you sidestep left. Sidestep 2 is just crazy good for evasion in general. And then of course you have back 3, which is one of the best evasive tools in the game, even if it's minus 19 on block. Still crushes everything and launches easily. So Asuka has a lot of tools, especially this shit and this shit, that a lot of newer players will just fall into the habit of relying on far too often. Instead of, you know, if you're against the wall and you're panicking, you're going to rely on this shit or this shit before you rely, or even this shit. A lot of opponents, a lot of players will just throw the cans out because it's low-high, natural combo, but on counter hit it is. And, you know, it's 14 frames to impact. The first kick comes out in 14 frames. So it's just a really, really strong move. It's evasive naturally. Asuka, as you see, has a shit ton of evasive tools built into her move list, and relying on those things too often can get the player punished once your opponent starts reading that shit. So, relying on reversals, relying on sabakis, relying on natural evasion, and evasive moves that will get you out of jail free over actually playing the real game Tekken. Use these moves. I'm not saying don't use them, but the bad habit of Asuka that she will teach players is relying on that shit more than you should. So learn how to play Tekken and learn when the appropriate time to incorporate those types of moves would be. You know, if you're at a minus frame advantage, for example, say I'm like -4, -5, not -7, -8, but -4, -5, thereabouts, you know, reversal could be probably a good thing to throw out. Sabaki could be good to throw out. I wouldn't recommend cans because you're pressing a button at that point. That's not just, there's no parry effect here. You're going to get counter hit. So this shit or the Sabaki, not a bad idea. Even sidestep 2, because at least it has the sidestep for evasion naturally. But when you're at that minus, you know, that's when it's okay to throw this type of shit, right? You want to set those things up. You don't just want to throw them out in the neutral willy-nilly, which is the bad habit I'm trying to frame. So, Asuka players, that's the thing that stands out mostly to me. Stop relying too much on what the character has to offer, and try playing more Tekken and then setting up those the moves I just showed you in a more effective and intelligent manner, and you will see some results within no time, and you'll climb the ladder much faster. Don't just rely on your character to play the game for you. Big habit with Asuka players in general. Moving on to Azucena now. Azucena has, I mean, she's pretty well-rounded, and she's a solid character to pick up. She's not super overly tuned anymore. She used to be, because of this fucking move, which is now only +2 on block now, and it's much easier to punish, and it's much easier to sidestep left. So it's not that spammable of a move anymore, but it's still a really good move that people should absolutely abuse. But the problem with Azucena players is they don't necessarily abuse this move too much. They abuse unsafe strings. Like, you need to adjust your game plan here. These things, don't be just throwing the strings out willy-nilly. That's the problem with Azucena, because down forward 1-4 is an amazing string that jails, so you cannot block or you cannot duck that second hit if you block the first hit. Fucking amazing string. But because of that, I think the Azucena players in general have a hard time not doing abusable, unsafe strings. Forward 4-4 can be ducked, so you gotta mix it up with forward 4-4-3. You know? Down forward 1-4-1 can be ducked. So mix it up with down forward 1-4-1-2. You know, that way, sorry, let me say that again. Mix it up with down forward 1-4-1-2. Yeah, what the fuck, man? It's this character's notations. Anyways, don't just, you know, this shit, again, very unsafe. That shit, very unsafe. Don't just fucking abuse unsafe strings. So, Azucena players, you guys have a character that can teach you some really solid Tekken. You've chosen a character that has the potential to not teach you any bad habits. I actually had to struggle to find a bad habit for Azucena players in general, but I realized that, fuck, that's the biggest thing I've noticed from Azucena players is they will finish unsafe strings because they're so reliant on down forward 1-4 being so safe and so good on block and on hit that it really doesn't matter. They can throw out unsafe shit all the time and no one's gonna do much to punish them. So I really think because these strings are so effective, down forward 1-4-1, forward 4-4, while standing 4-1 as something that's not just a punish, you know. Like, these strings are not safe. Don't just throw them out and end the strings. So you want to just hold up on finishing that shit and mix the strings up more often. A good Azucena player will do something like this if they see that you're ducking this. You know, so just take note of that, and once you've stopped doing unsafe strings needlessly and you've mixed them up with better strings, then you're golden. But yeah, that's really all I'm noticing with Azucena players. Generally, at the rank that I'm playing at with the God ranks and all that, when I hit Tekken God with Kazuya, I got demoted to Tekken Emperor. But once I hit Tekken God with Kazuya, I was playing a lot of God of Destruction Azucenas. And the God of Destruction Azucenas I played, as soon as they saw I was ducking shit like this, they immediately switched to the other strings, the less safe on block, but safer as in I can't duck and launch them for the string anymore. So once they start doing that, then they start counter hit launching you, then they start fucking, getting their damage in, and Azucena becomes a really strong character. But you have to kind of condition your opponent to not duck your strings. So stop just letting them get away with ducking your strings all day, and do more safe, more compact, more streamlined strings that will yield you more benefits in the end. Azucena is a solid character. So she won't teach you a hell of a lot of bad habits, but that is the one that stands out to me. So next up we have Bryan, and like Azucena, I struggled to come up with an idea. I don't really know what bad habits Bryan is going to teach players, but I guess at low level he's going to teach players to use this shit. Just don't, as long as you don't use Snake Edge, you should be fine. It's not a good move. It's just trash. Maybe you get a little combo for it, but it's fucking 29 frames to impact. There's no fucking way the average player is not going to... Well, not the average player, but a reasonably decent player in purple ranks and up is going to see this on reaction and launch it every single time. So the one bad habit Bryan will teach you is that this launches and does good damage. So just don't use Snake Edge. Other than that, I can't really think of anything else that Bryan teaches players that's bad. He's a very solid, very honest, very difficult to use character. I don't play Bryan myself, but I have nothing but respect for Bryan players because Bryan is arguably one of the hardest characters in the game to pilot. And so he kind of naturally forces a lot of players to eliminate any bad habits from their repertoire early on because he's so difficult and he doesn't really reward you trying to do random bullshit. Bryan absolutely has random bullshit. You can abuse some abusable shit with him like this. Fucking amazing move that's super abusable. It's like his electric. And, yeah, that's an abusable move, but it's not a bad habit to use that move. It's super hard to duck this shit. Fucking QCB1 is 13 frames to impact. And they're not really going to see the input for it. So even if they do see the input for it, it's only going to be like a 15 frame move tops. Or 16 frame move tops. And at that point, they're not going to see that and react to it and duck it on reaction. So you can totally abuse QCB1 and get away with it. But you start abusing this shit, you're going to die. So that's a bad habit with Bryan, but once you eliminate Snake Edge from your repertoire, then you got nothing really to worry about. This character's super solid and it's not going to teach him any bad habits. Claudio is a little easier to figure out. He's got some pretty obvious shit that's, he's got this, which is naturally evasive, and he's got this shit, which is hella evasive. It's so fucking good. It's only minus 12 on block, and in heat, it's minus 2. Does a full launch. Really fucking amazing moves. This crushes jabs. So what the problem is with Claudio players is a lot of them will just end up relying on, down back 1+2, up forward 4, back 1, as their go-to tools far too often when they're in a tight bind. And that's basically the issue with Claudio players. The habit that Claudio can teach you is to mash out of turn because he has evasive properties in his move list, and those moves are so incredibly strong that using them at inopportune times can sometimes net you some pretty fucking good damage and a full combo or whatever. These are amazing get out of jail free cards. Claudio's got them. They're very fucking good moves. If he's afraid you're gonna go for low, he can do something like a Superman punch, which the fucking damage on that shit is incredible. And it's not hard to do that shit anymore. Superman punch, a fucking baby could do this. Well, it's got a cold, and it's like 2 weeks old. It's easy shit to do now, but it's evasive as fuck. So they're gonna mash out of turn a lot of the time, especially when it comes to hop kick. And And Superman Punch is just... The Shoryuken that he does now, that he has now, is just an insane move. That being minus 12 on block in the neutral without heat, crazy, crazy. And then in heat, it's minus 2, has decent tracking to one side, and then launches for full hit, or for full combo. And it's only minus 2. I don't know, it's a really strong move, so of course people are going to mash on a turn with that shit. But that's a bad habit, because as soon as someone sees that you're doing that constantly, they're going to adapt and kill you for it. I've destroyed many Claudio players that I realize just don't really have much defense. They only want to press when it's not really their turn, because they know that hop kick's going to kill jabs and a lot of highs. You know, back one is going to kill jabs. You know, this is going to kill all their highs and a bunch of their lows. You know, so why wouldn't you mash? But stop doing that so much. That's not a good habit to get into. Claudio has a lot of tools that can get you out of a tight bind. But learn how to place those tools more effectively and don't just rely on them to save your ass, and that's the one use you have for those moves. Set those moves up properly. Use them in the neutral. They're good fucking moves. When you sidestep and you make somebody whiff, that's when you want a hop kick. You know? Oh shit, he just fucking whiffed some shit. I sidestepped it right. Boom. Hop kick, full launch, full combo. You know? Oh, sidestep into Superman Punch, because why not? Even stronger full combo. So that's the application you want to do for those moves, generally speaking. Back one is insane. The fact that it crushes jabs and does everything it does. Does decent damage. Is a homing mid. Wall splats for full combo. Pretty much resets the neutral because Claudio pushes you away and then falls back himself to an area where he's pretty much out of jab range. As soon as he does one little backdash, he's out of range of a ton of shit. So, very solid fucking move. But it's 18 frames to impact. It doesn't crush immediately. It's not always going to save your ass. So relying on that to get you out of a tight spot, and that being the only thing you go to, or the main tools that you go to, not a good habit to get into, and Claudio will teach you that. So just be aware of that and try to avoid that shit with him. Now, Devil Jin is an interesting case. He's one of my mains. I'd say he's my tertiary character. He's my third character next to Kazuya, Heihachi. I love Devil Jin. But will he teach you some bad habits? Fuck yeah, he will. He's not as reliant on the electric as I'd say, you know, his dad or his grandfather are, but he still needs the electric. But I don't think that the electric has anything to do with the bad habit that I'm going to talk about here. That's going to come later when I talk about Kazuya. Devil Jin's biggest problem, Devil Jin players' biggest problem, is using unsafe, like hella unsafe, launch punishable bullshit to get themselves in a, you know, out of dodge. Why would you do this just because, yes, you can get a full combo, yes, you can get a heat engager, but those moves are freaking unsafe. You will get launch punished every time you even attempt to throw those fucking moves out. Devil Jin doesn't need his Samsara. He doesn't need back 3. Unless you're already in heat, then back 3 can be pretty fucking strong. But, you know, unless you know that the opponent is going to mash into you, don't just throw those moves out as your, holy fuck, what do I do? I'm struggling to figure out how to get out of this tight bind. You know, this is another one. Great aura move that is a fantastic parry, acts like a really good parry, but don't just rely on defensive shit. You know, again, these fucking strings are these fucking moves are way too, look at that, minus 18 on block from back 3. Everybody's gonna launch you. So, and then minus 25 on block from the Samsara. And then if this just whiffs, then Devil Jin is fucked for the next, the next second, the next 60 frames straight. So you're gonna get fucking killed for throwing that shit out when it's not the right time to throw it out. So the bad habit I'd get into, or I'd say a lot of Devil Jin players have, is instead of learning proper Mishima fundamentals and proper Tekken fundamentals, a lot of Devil Jins in lower ranks will rely on their evasive shit, much like Asuka players do. And it saddens me to see that with Devil Jin, because I expect that kind of stuff from an Asuka player or an Alisa player, but not a Devil Jin player. So clean that shit up and stop relying on bullshit to get you out of tight binds. Devil Jin has some really good stuff, and he's got a solid, he's got solid movement. He's got a pretty decent backdash. Not the best backdash in the game, but it's slightly better than his dad's. Sidestep also slightly better than his dad's, so you have tools to get you out of places. You have a 13 frame mid poke as well, and he's got tools that's going to help him out of the neutral. But you should rely on movement and proper fundamentals. Sidestep into an electric whip punish. Oh fuck, my execution's shit right now. Sidestep into electric whip punish is what you want to do, not just panic samsara. So the damage you'll get in the end from an electric sidestep whip punish is much better than a panic samsara damage you'll get, and it's much safer. So you're winning in multiple fronts. So play Devil Jin with more of a reactive style game plan in mind, and not just panicking into samsara or back 3. That's just gonna get you killed. So stop relying on evasive tools too much. But a lot of characters have this problem, and Devil Jin just happens to be one of them. Dragunov. Fucking Dragunov. I swear I feel like I talk about this character and no one else, but Dragunov, the bad habit that Dragunov will teach you, I don't even need to fucking press anything for this. All of Dragunov's shit is insane. He is insanely strong right now. And he always has been since Tekken 8 came out. So what this character is going to teach you is how to play Dragunov, not how to play Tekken. You're going to do stuff like this. You're going to just fucking do this shit all day. Why not, right? Because it's fucking good shit. He's got so many tools that are going to just fucking kill the opponent that you don't need to learn Tekken. So, in my opinion, Dragunov's biggest problem right now isn't really something that you can avoid. Unless you are a passionate Dragunov player and you are like a gold rank in Tekken 7 and you come to Tekken 8 and then you pick up Dragunov, you probably know a lot about how to play Tekken. So, regardless as to whether or not Dragunov's move list will teach you poor habits in Tekken, like how to play Dragunov and not how to play Tekken, because his move list is so fucking oppressive and over-tuned and basically doesn't allow the other player to play Tekken a lot of the time. For most of the round, Dragunov's going to be controlling the round every single moment just because of the toolkit he has. So the bad habit for Dragunov is unfortunate right now. It's just playing Dragunov and not playing Tekken. You don't have any punishment. You don't have any movement. You're not playing a reactive style game. You have no throw breaks. Your spacing is trash because you don't need spacing, because shit like this, not like that, but shit like this hits from fucking range 50, and then you run in and do this shit, and then this tracks both sides, and then this tracks both sides as well. So why the fuck do you need to learn about movement and spacing when this has, all these moves have pretty decent range, and they're all ridiculously broken, and they're just, there's no reason to learn about Tekken fundamentals. So I'd say the bad habit Dragunov teaches you is just the second you pick up the character, you're playing Dragunov and not Tekken. I don't even know the solution to this right now. I guess the solution would be try to remain as much of a Tekken player as you possibly can, despite Dragunov not really allowing such a thing to be a thing right now, considering how ridiculously overpowered he is. He basically plays himself. So that's the habit with Dragunov. Unfortunately, I don't have a solution. All I can say is once he is nerfed, he will start teaching people better Tekken, because Dragunov has some really cool, interesting concepts about him that don't even need to be applied right now, because all the uninteresting shit is the broken shit. So, can he teach you proper Tekken? Fuck yeah. Is he capable of doing that right now? Not really, because he's too strong. So you'll pick up Dragunov and then you'll switch to literally any other character and be like, why do I suck? Because you played Dragunov all this time and you relied way too much on his shit and not enough on your actual Tekken fundamentals. So, yeah, just playing the character will create bad habits for you out the wazoo. So that's Dragunov, unfortunately. You're not really going to see any detriments on the character until he does get nerfed. But trust me, the habits he's teaching you right now, 90% of people out there playing this character are going to be in for a rude awakening once he gets heavily nerfed for Season 2, if they're going to actually do that, because you won't be getting away with most of the shit you're currently getting away with. And you won't even know he's teaching you a bad habit, or bad habits, plural, until that day comes. So, I think just be mindful of that fact. Dragunov mains, newer Dragunov players, be mindful of that fact. Eddy's a bit of a tougher one, I think, because Eddy is the kind of character that is pretty fair and balanced. There's not a whole lot going on with this guy in terms of anything overpowered, but a lot of his animations look the same for a lot of players out there, because he's Eddy, and he's got some interesting animations nowadays, and, you know, there's this type of shit. The 3-3-3-3-3-3-3-3-3 mash, you know, that's a thing. So I think the biggest takeaway with a lot of Eddy players out there is they'll start using strings that are unsafe, like strings that have highs in them, because they don't really care. So a bad habit is Eddy will teach you to not really give a fuck and throw out unsafe strings, like this shit. In handstand stance, 3-3-3 is mid-high-high. The second hit is a high, and you can duck and launch that. So just be mindful of the strings you're spamming out with Eddy. You don't need to fucking do any of that shit. You know, 4-4-3 is a really solid move. You know, use that shit. But strings like this and this shit, just out there in the neutral. This shit too, minus 13 on block. Minus 13 on block. Fucking mid-high. Stuff like that. A lot of Eddy players just won't give a fuck, and they'll just start throwing those strings out. Just be aware of the fact that some people can distinguish your animations with Eddy. A lot of good players can. I can pretty easily distinguish Eddy's animations. I know when to duck him. I know what's minus 13 and what's not. I know when he does that big hard mid that's like plus 6. You can sidewalk him left and pretty much evade everything he tries to do afterwards. So, he's got some counterplay available to him in spades. So he's a difficult character to pilot in that sense for when you get up into the higher ranks. And I think a lot of the bad habits that Eddy players run into are just being not so mindful of the fact that a lot of those strings are counterable by a lot of players online and in the world. So just be more mindful of your strings and stop abusing the unsafe ones. A lot of shit in common with Azucena in that regard. Her strings are so effective that people forget that there is counterplay to them. Same thing applies to stuff like this. There's easy counterplay to that shit. Just duck the second hit in the string and launch him for full damage. So, don't just abuse those strings, and you'll garner a little bit more success. Just be more mindful. That's a bad habit. He teaches mindlessness with string inputs, and that's not necessary. Feng is one of those characters that has very evasive, crazy shit, right? You know, he's an extremely evasive character. Due to the Kenpo stance. This shit is insane. And then he's got moves like this that evade everything. And then not to mention, let's just go over down up forward 2 real quick. How insane this move is. Even at minus 10, it's still a really good move. So, abusing his evasive stuff and not timing things appropriately. When someone is coming at you and you throw out this Kenpo stance that evades pretty much everything, someone can have perfect spacing and you throw this out at the right time, you can easily kill them for it because boom, launch. You know, and then it's, you know, big damage after that. So there exists a time and a place for throwing out this Kenpo shit, usually it's on a hard read, but not just willy-nilly, not just doing it because. Same thing with up forward 2. I'm struggling to fucking, I don't know what the hell to do right now. This guy's kicking my ass. I'm gonna up forward 2, or I'm at -7 or -8. I'm gonna up forward 2 because I need to get the fuck out of dodge. Well, you're screwing yourself over. Why are you doing that? Oh, because there's a sidestep in the move, and then I get an automatic hit after 2. Yeah, well, you know what you could do instead? Just sidestep. Sidestep, and then try up forward 2. Sidestep left into up forward 2. You'll fucking, trust me, your evasiveness will be even better. So you know, sidestep into Kenpo as well. You evade so much shit by doing that. Not just fucking throwing this shit out willy-nilly and not thinking at all in the process. So, mindless, evasive moves that offer a lot in terms of you know, utility. Like, look at this shit. Full launch, if I can do the combo. But full launch because down forward 3 for some reason hits grounded. So, this is fucking stupid move. But, you know, Feng is a solid character, one of the strongest characters in the game. I'd put him still probably in the top 10, if not top 12 best characters in the game. And he has a lot of crazy shit. A lot of that is because of his evasive utility. He has some of the most evasive moves in the entire game. A lot of it has to do with just Kenpo itself. So, mindlessly throwing out Kenpos and back ones and back forward ones and, you know, up forward 2s, just because they're so effective at getting you out of dodge so quickly, is going to get you killed in the long run because people are going to start reading that shit and then punishing you immediately, and or just holding off on their offense. Even if you're at a minus, even if you're in -4, -5, you're panicking. They know you panic at -4, -5. Every time my Kazuya does down back 4, you love to up forward 2 because you can't imagine a scenario where you just have to guard. You would rather be in offense mode at all times. And I get it, that's Tekken 8 in a nutshell. Be offensive at all times. But there is a time and a place to do that shit. And if you keep getting killed because you mash this shit out, when it's not the appropriate time to do so, stop doing that. It's a bad habit that Feng will teach a lot of players. Just be more mindful of that stuff, that's all. Heihachi. Heihachi is my second main. I fucking love this character. And he's actually quite balanced. I'm very impressed with the design that they did with Heihachi. So there's not a whole lot of bullshit with this character. He's very linear, and he's got garbage lows, so the counterplay is sidestep him and never duck him. Very straightforward, very easy counterplay. A good Heihachi will circumvent that, but the bad Heihachis, for lack of a better word, will try to circumvent it with bullshit, like this stuff. Down back 2 is a move that is very trash, and a lot of players will spam this shit. It does a lot of damage, but it's not a good move. It's -18 on block for the entire cast, so the entire cast can launch that shit on block. So a bad habit with Heihachi is bringing down back 2 into your inventory. Don't take that move and insert it into your repertoire. Get that the fuck out of there. Your down back 2 is all but useless. Sure, throw it out every now and again. As like this, you know, let's see if he can, I'm gonna keep him in check. Maybe he's panicking a little bit. I haven't really used down back 2, so fuck it. Maybe that's an appropriate time to do it. They're not expecting it, so let's try to do it there. But just throwing it out as part of your offense, you know, I'm coming at him with all kinds of shit. 4-4-2s and electrics and shit. Oh, okay, well, that's down back 2, and now I'm going to sidestep into down back 2, and then jab, down 4-1, down back 2. Get it out of there. If you're using it in that regard, the moment somebody calls it out, a lot of players can even react to that and just see it and block it on reaction every time, especially if they're looking for it. It's a horrible move. It doesn't do enough, and it doesn't warrant enough reward to warrant using the fucking thing when the risk is 10 times higher than the reward. So a bad habit with Heihachi is implementing down back 2 into your repertoire. Get that the fuck out of here. Horrible move. use it very sparingly. Do not rely on it more than twice a match, really. And as soon as you see them duck and launch punish you for it once, I'd be very reluctant to even try using it one more time. It's just not good enough to warrant, because 2 of these and connecting with 2, even 3 of them, that's combo damage. So you need to connect with 3 of them just to get enough damage to measure up with the combo that you'll be eating once they do inevitably launch punish you for doing that move. So why bother risking your life needlessly when you can do other shit with Heihachi? You don't have to do down back 2. You can do Hell Sweep. Hell Sweep mix-ups. Hell Sweep's a fucking great move. It's better than down back 2 because it's got more reward to it and it has the exact same risk. They're both launch punishable lows. I'd rather do the low that's going to do more for me and potentially net me some more damage, and it's less reactable, than do a move that is going to potentially get me killed every time I attempt it. So that's just my opinion. Down back 2 being used by Heihachi players consistently is a bad habit that he can very easily teach you to do. So don't let him do it. Hwoarang is a little bit more straightforward. Mashing with Hwoarang, very effective. So a lot of Hwoarangs are going to be mashing all the time, especially this move. This move is a Hwoarang player's favorite fucking move. They just love the shit out of it, and mashing out of turn because they're just so used to always being. It's always their turn. Hwoarang always has his turn if he connects with any of his moves, even moves on block like fucking the right flamingo 2. Right flamingo 2 is +5 on block and +7 on hit with Hwoarang. So you have to duck that move if you want to evade it, and even then it has insanely fast recovery. So you have to read it, duck, immediately launch, just to get to ensure yourself a launch. If you're even a little bit late with a 15-frame launch punish, you will miss the timing, and he'll probably be able to block the punish. So for a lot of Hwoarang players, it's always their turn in their minds. So mashing out of turn is a huge problem for Hwoarang. He's got a lot of power crush moves. He's got a lot of strings that are just constantly keeping you in check. A lot of opponents don't know how to deal with Hwoarang spamming bullshit. He has evasive garbage that's going to get him out of dodge too. You know, he's got fucking backlash. That's an insane power crush tool that is very, very difficult to punish. So really, he's got everything you would need to ensure that it's always your turn. But if you know how to deal with Hwoarang, then he becomes much more difficult to use and much more difficult to keep that pressure up with. So when you see that and you identify that, then stop mashing fucking buttons. Mashing out a turn and relying on bullshit like this to just save your ass every time you're in a bind because you want to get your turn back right now, you don't want to wait, is not, or relying on shit like this. Right flamingo back 4, down forward 3-4, you know, right flamingo, or right forward into 3 until 4. You got fucking backlash, like the power crush moves that Hwoarang does. They're all very effective, and they will keep you from mashing. So the Hwoarang player knows it's almost always his turn. Just make sure that it's not. No, learn the Hwoarang matchup so that the Hwoarang player is up against the wall, doesn't know what the fuck to do, and then they mash out a turn and then you kill them. But the Hwoarang player who's doing the mashing out of turn shit, you are currently engaging in a bad habit with Hwoarang. He's going to teach you that stuff because of everything I just said. So just be aware of the fact that mashing out of turn isn't going to keep you in good standings for every single round. Sometimes you should mash out of turn, most of the time you shouldn't, and Hwoarang players seem to want to do it no matter what, whether it's a good idea or not. A lot of lower level Hwoarang players do. So stop doing that. It's a bad habit. Even though the character very much will teach you that it's a good thing to do, it's not. The more advanced you get in Tekken, the more you're going to eat shit for doing that. So just be aware of that fact and mash a little bit less often, especially when it's not your turn. Jack is a little trickier because he's a genuinely honest character. There's not a lot of bullshit with Jack. Yes, he has a perfect throw game, that can be cheesy sometimes, but for the most part, Jack is pretty honest. He's got some pretty decent lows, you know. What's the other one? Oh yeah, full crouch down back 1, or is it full crouch 1? No, full crouch down back 1. You know, full crouch down back 1. You know, he's got down back 1. He's got moves like that are fucking phenomenal. So Jack is a little bit of a different case. He's a very honest character. Again, it was hard for me to come up with an idea here for what Jack players typically tend to do as a bad habit that doesn't apply to every other character in the game with like as an umbrella concept. But I think Jack's biggest issue is mixing up his Gamma Howl stats. Jack players don't really mix this up as well as they should. You know, like I think when you go into a move that transitions into Gamma Howl stance, and you see people are starting to duck your highs, then incorporate the homing move more often. A lot of players will just stick to the garbage that's either sidesteppable, which Gamma Howl 1, or not Gamma Howl 1, that's homing, but Gamma Howl 3, Gamma Howl 4, I believe, is sidesteppable to the left. And even Gamma Howl 2, you can sidewalk it left as well. So Gamma Howl stance, sidestep left, sidewalk left, beats the majority of the stance. But this move still works. And whatever the fucking, I don't remember what the other one is. That one, yeah. Gamma Howl 3+4, you know, use that shit if people are sidestepping you as well. But I'm just not noticing a lot of, you know, stop just trying to abuse stuff that Gamma Howl has that is very punishable. If you're seeing that your Gamma Howl stance is being beaten out by your opponent's counterplay, like sidestep left, then mix up the homing move in the stance more often, which I don't see a lot of newer players doing, because this is a great fucking move. I don't know why more people don't use it. It's even safe on block now since they buffed it. But definitely try to incorporate fewer unsafe moves with Jack and Gamma Howl stance, and try to do the moves that are, you know, gonna save your ass. And time the stance a little bit better. Use it as more of an Oki scenario than just doing it in the middle of the neutral after you've landed a hit that then goes into Gamma Howl, and then you do the next move after that. Try to be less autopilot with the stance, I guess I should say. So that's the takeaway. Do less autopilot Gamma Howl shit, and you should already see some improvements. Jack is the type of character that's going to teach you some pretty decent tech and fundamentals anyways. So, you know, just be aware of that fact, that Gamma Howl can be mixed up with a homing move that's pretty solid, and you don't need to just rely on the good shit, like the highs that come out of the stance, because those moves can get you killed. So, just be a little bit more, you know, mix your shit up more often. Jin is a really easy one for me. An over-reliance on this shit, and on this shit. Natural evasion, crushes everything. Natural evasion, sidesteps everything. And is safe. And counter hit. It knocks down on counter hit. So, you know, this shit is very much abusable by Jin, but relying on this shit too heavily, and this shit too heavily, is not gonna be good for you. Especially if you're mashing up forward 2 out of turn. It comes out at 15 frames. So if somebody's, you know, plus anything, or even just neutral, and they mash out a 14 frame homing counter hit move like Kazuya down forward 2, and you're panicking and mashing this shit, you're gonna get counter hit launched. If somebody's, you know, mashing hop kicks and you're throwing this out, you're gonna get launched. So stop relying too heavily on ridiculous bullshit from Jin just because he allows those types of moves in his repertoire to exist. Because once you've gotten killed a few times for doing this stuff, you should clue in that it's not really working. So cut it out. But Jin will teach you to rely on that stuff. Yeah, the Samsara, which is minus 16 on block now, so you can die for getting for throwing that out randomly, but it does have some pretty crazy shit. You You know, the dive kick is amazing as far as evasive bullshit goes. He's got a lot of evasive shit, so you don't really need to learn defense with Jin. Jin has a lot of oppressive tools. So, my takeaway for Jin is very similar as a couple of other characters I mentioned. Is the over-reliance on moves like up forward 2 and down 2, because of how much evasion they have, will teach you no defense. So don't allow Jin to teach you bad defensive concepts. If your defense is lacking because you're relying too much on panic tools, despite how strong they are, eventually it's going to be a detriment and you're not going to be able to progress. So just cut that part out of your repertoire. You should be already better off with Jin. Jin has a perfect toolkit. He's one of the strongest characters in the game, easily top 5 best characters in the game right now. If you're not Tekken God Supreme or God of Destruction with Jin by now, it's probably because you're not playing the character the most effective way he could be played. You need to get rid of this bullshit of just doing evasive garbage because it's working sometimes, and actually try to learn Tekken. You can do that with Jin, despite him having all this ridiculous nonsense that allows him to get out of jail free at all times for free, for like huge, there very little risk and big reward. You know, a knockdown into a guaranteed hit, and on block, no risk. You just lose your turn. That's it. So huge reward, zero risk. This only launch punishable by a handful of the cast. Most people can't launch punish that attack. So, low risk, high reward. Launches on counter hit. Is a plus frame advancing low. That high crushes everything. And tracks to both sides. A very amazing fucking move. But the over-reliance on those moves is going to make your defense overall deteriorate. So don't let your defense deteriorate. Play Tekken. Don't just play Jin. So Jun has a lot of similar problems that Asuka does. You know, she's got the Sabaki bullshit. She's got the can-cans, she's got the reversal. It's not quite as good as Asuka's because you can't just hold it out there for all fucking day. So same problems Asuka has. So just see Asuka if you want to fucking note the bullshit wrong with Jin, but or Jun, I should say, not Jin. But on top of that, Jun also has stuff like this. A lot of players like to just throw out unsafe strings because... So... like that, and this. The second hit of those strings can be ducked. Everyone's always going to be looking for the homing high at the end of 1-2-2. So it's relying on unsafe strings, again, that will get you killed. On top of relying on just her Sabaki and her reversal and her natural evasion bullshit that she has. She also has back 3. So, relying on those things too heavily and attacking out of turn and doing unsafe strings. Very, very common with Jun players. So, just be aware of that fact. I know that there's a trend going on. There's a lot of the same bad habits being talked about right now. But that's why I want to do a visual representation of the types of strings people are doing, so that you can understand that they're not very good strings, and to stop relying on them so heavily if you want to progress in this game, because they're just going to hurt you in the end. But we need that visual representation with strings on screen so that people know what to not do anymore, or to do less of now, going forward. So there you go. Those are the Jun comments I have. Not a whole lot to say about her. Finally get to my main, Kazuya. Kazuya is pretty straightforward for me because he taught me this bad habit in the very beginning when I started playing the character. That move. One of the most fun moves you'll ever do. Like, I haven't warmed up at all. My execution is trash. But the electric is a lot of fun to do. And it's a lot of fun to practice. And you require that move to pilot Kazuya at his most effective. If you're a Kazuya main in red, purple, blue ranks and you don't know how to do the electric yet, or you can't do the electric yet, you should learn how to do the fucking electric. It's the most important tool for the character, but the bad habit Kazuya has is learning to do the electric will cost you. you're going to be spending so much time in practice mode learning how to get the timing on that move down for so many hours and so long, so many weeks playing matches online or in, in little local tournaments or whatever. And your electric will be fucking on point because of all that practice you put into the electric. But your punishment's gonna suck ass. Your movement's gonna suck ass. All of your Tekken fundamentals are gonna be in the fucking toilet because you've spent all this time on learning this one move because it's so important for the character and it's so much fun to do. But everything else is gonna suffer. So the biggest bad habit Kazuya has is teaching people an amazing electric and nothing else about Tekken. Don't let Kazuya and the electric hold you back. Learn proper Tekken. I spent years in practice mode learning how to do electrics, and my electrics are pretty fucking good now once I've warmed up and once I've put some couple of matches in and I've got muscle memory in my brain and my fucking fingers for the day. Then my electrics are on point. But my punishment sucked. My movement sucked. Everything was trash for years because I wanted to focus on the electric. So don't let Kazuya do that. Very straightforward bad habit. Just make sure that you learn proper Tekken fundamentals on top of learning your electric. And the other thing I would say is for Kazuya is don't just wave dash needlessly in someone's face when you identified already that they're getting up with get-up kicks or that they're not respecting your wave dash. You have to earn the right to wave dash. So a bad habit is just wave dashing all the time. Fuck that. Wave dash when it's appropriate, when you've earned that right. You don't get to fucking just wave dash in anybody's face because you're not blocking when you're wave dashing. They can hit you anytime they want. So stop just needlessly wave dashing and identify when to do it properly. So two bad habits that involve Mishima style gameplay. Mishimas will make you want to wave dash and they'll make you want to electric, and the bad habit is doing those things because your brain wants to do them. The good habit would be doing them and applying them at times when you've earned the right to do those moves. So yeah, that's what I got for Kazuya. King is a very straightforward character. The habit that he has is he will teach you some amazing fucking throws. He'll teach you some of the best throws in the fucking game, but he'll never teach you how to break them. So, as a King player, your job is to learn how to break throws, because the majority of King players I've seen, even in recent videos I've made, talking to other King players and addressing their gameplay specifically, there are King players in gold ranks and high blue ranks that have no throw breaks at all. Can't break throws to save their fucking lives. But they throw all the fucking time. So the bad habit that a King is going to teach you is just is not breaking throws. So if you're a King main and you're throwing people all the time, you better learn how to break throws too, because people are naturally, in this game, people are going to want to throw you back once they've been thrown a few times. Like, fuck this guy, I hate his throws, they're so much damage, I suck at breaking throws, let's see if this guy can break throws, and then they try to throw you, and hey, you can't break throws either, and now it's just a throwing contest. Whoever gets the most damage from throws wins. And once they start ducking your throws and launching you for it, what do you got? Can you duck their throws and launch them? You know, like, you're better off just learning how to break throws while you play King. Just, if you're gonna be a King player, learn that shit. Very easy habit, but very hard one for a lot of King players to break, apparently. So Kuma's pretty straightforward. This is for Kuma and Panda. Kuma has shitloads. Minus 15. Minus 13. You know? Obviously minus 17, minus 23. There's fucking this, what's the other one? Down 4, 2 plus 3. Or is it down 2 plus 3? Oh, it's down back 2 plus 3. Down back 2 plus 3 is still minus 12. But it's so slow and it's so telegraphed that anyone's gonna see that and block it on reaction. So, don't bother with Kuma's lows, and don't rely on them very much. You don't need to. Look at this chip damage. Back forward 2 is an insane move that does ridiculous damage. that's just one of the many moves that Kuma and Panda have that make up for the fact that they have shit lows. So, relying on their lows far too much when it's just not necessary. They have chip damage attacks. So with Hunting Bear forward 1+2, you can delete all their chip, right? Why are you relying on shit lows when Kuma has insane chip damage capability, the best in the game, and a way to delete your gray health with Hunting Bear stance forward 1+2? There's just no reason to do the garbage lows, especially this fucking one. This one is so easily telegraphed because Kuma, yeah, it's only 21 frames to impact, so theoretically you shouldn't be able to see that and react to it on block every time, but you can because Kuma is a different type of character. He's a massive hurt box, this big-ass block of pixels on the screen. It's going to be hard to not see that kick and visually confirm that he's doing it. Look at the animation that his entire body does. Kuma is very easily telegraphed when he does down back forward. So abusing shitty lows to get that damage that you can otherwise get from doing safe chip damage attacks. And then, you know, once that's done, fucking delete their gray health with Hunting Bear stance forward 1+2. Kuma's one of 5 characters, Kuma and Panda are 2 of 5 characters that can do that shit. So, well, I guess 6 now that Heihachi's a thing, but abuse the crap out of that. Don't use their shitty lows. You don't need to. You can throw the lows out now and again, but just be aware of the fact that if, say you're playing against a Kazuya player, every low Kuma has is launch punishable by Kazuya on fucking block. -17. You know, except for that one. Down back 3, pretty good low, but it's 18 frames to impact, so it's pretty slow. So just try to avoid using the lows with the bears. You don't need to. Their chip damage is enough. You can throw out the lows now and again, but relying on them too heavily, like I've seen players just play like this all day. Down back 2 into down back 4, down back 3. If they're really ballsy, they'll try this trash. Just get those fucking moves out of there. They're not worth it, and they're way too risky, and when Kuma has such crazy chip damage, the lows become obsolete. For Lars, I had a hard time coming up with just like one bad habit that Lars does. I guess you could do unsafe, like, you know, the application of certain moves, you know, going in with dynamic entry, and then doing the silent entry shit. You know, it's fake pressure. It can be interrupted at any point. So learning how to not do that type of shit and kill yourself is pretty important to do with Lars. But I think the habit that I see a lot of lower ranked Lars players do is panic buttons, specifically this move. This is a move with Lars that is insanely overused considering how bullshit it is. And not bullshit in my case, but bullshit for the Lars player. It high crushes in the beginning, it low crushes in the middle and the end, and it's a full launch. But it's -26 on block, which means the entire cast gets a launch, including Steve. That's a move that even Steve can launch with up forward 2. So that's a ridiculously shit move that a lot of lower players will just abuse because it's their panic tool with Lars. So just timing your up forward 3 at horrible times is a bad habit, and just relying on that to get you out of jail is just not a good idea. Lars has other ways to get out of jail that are much safer than that. So you have crushing tools, you have fucking decent lows, like down back 4, yeah, it's launch punishable, but it's super evasive, and it launches on counter hit. So if you want a counter hit launch and you're panicking, don't go for this. Go for this. They're both the same on block. But this is going to get you out of dodge more often than up forward 3 will. But honestly, relying on both of them, at least this is a low. So it's less likely to be blocked. Relying on this is just not a good idea. You're gonna get killed. Unless you absolutely know that they're going to try to mash and the next thing coming out is gonna be a high attack or a low attack, don't go for this. You know, you have other options. Lars has some fucking decent power crushes. He's got a down back 4. You know, he's got other moves that are far better. Plus he's got this, which I think crushes some jabs. I'm not 100% sure. Don't quote me on that. I am not sure if it does or not. But I swear this has beaten out my jab with Kazuya multiple times. So, 14 frame launch because you can actually buffer this shit. You can buffer the forward back inputs, so you can make that move a 14 frame launch. So if you're worried that they're gonna mash and you don't know what to do and you're panicking, this is not a good tool to use, so don't rely on it too much. With Law, he was a similar case to several characters we talked about, but Law has a special one because a lot of players love this shit. Junkyard or fucking this shit. There's just no reason to do this shit. This is terrible. This is terrible. Fucking what else is there? This shit. What's the hop kick? Or the backflip? Oh, there you go. The backflips with Law. I thought they were 3+4, 3+4, but I guess, yeah, that's right. They switched to up 4 now. They've been switched like that for years. But anyways, this is -14 on block, unsafe string. This is -17, very unsafe. This is -15. This is, you could parry the shit out of this. If you're gonna mix the junkyard with a string with back 2-1, then that's again -15 on block. Law players love to fucking love to just throw out unsafe bullshit. You know, there's just no reason to throw that crap out. You have such good fucking tools. If you don't know what to do, just down forward 2, man. Just do it. It's only -7. It doesn't launch crouching opponents, but it launches everything else. So, and it's hard to sidestep. So, there's that. There's also the nunchucks, especially in heat. The nunchucks become -9, or sorry, -8. Fuck. And they have some decent tracking to them. So, Law has some good shit. You do not need to rely on the bullshit unsafe strings to get you out of dodge. So, and especially not this trash. Fuck that. You're gonna get killed for doing Dragon Tail. So, unsafe strings, like up forward 4-4, junkyard. And the thing about junkyard is you can delay the shit, so you don't just have to do it willy-nilly. So, apply his strings more effectively and stop trying to just rely on them every time you see that you're in a clinch and you need to get the fuck out of there. Don't just down 2-3 everything. It's -15 on block. And it's easy to sidestep. There's no tracking others whatsoever. So, Law is a very aggressive character. Law players are very aggressive players typically. All they want to do is hit you. So, as a Law player, if you are a Law player, just be aware of the fact that your strings, your panic tools are good when you apply them correctly, but they will get you killed more often than not if you rely on them too heavily. So, similar issue with a lot of other characters we've talked about, but very, very prominent with Law, and I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with that shit. Lee is another very difficult character to come up with a concept for what's a bad habit that a lot of Lee players do. Typically, Lee players are quite talented Tekken players. Lee is a difficult character to use. He's not, top 5 most difficult, but he's absolutely difficult to use. Much harder than Law, for example, but he's similar to Law in a lot of ways. He has the slide, it's not as good as Law's. He's got, a down forward 2 that's pretty decent. It's about as good as Law's. He's got throws that can launch, up forward 1+2. It's not a launching throw, but against the wall, he can launch, so it's cool for that. So lead players are usually pretty compact and they're pretty mindful of what they're doing, but a lot of the time they'll do random shit like this. Just Hitman shit. Now, all of Lee's Hitman shit they're all very punishable, you know? Like, this is high. These are all highs, so you can launch that shit. Hitman 2 is minus 13. Hitman 4, minus 13, so even Kazuya can launch that. Hitman 3 is safe, but you can duck and launch that. So a lot of the time, I think it's just a flowchart for League players to do string or do moves into Hitman into attack. And the bad habit, that's a bad habit, just flowcharting into Hitman attacks. A lot of League players will do this shit very often, or even this shit, which is quite a common thing. Same counterplay for both attacks. You duck and you launch that shit, and away you go. It's just the application of those tools. Flowcharting with League players is pretty common in that sense when we're talking about the Hitman stance. So I think that that's probably the biggest bad habit of Lee's, is don't just mindlessly do Hitman flowcharts into, you know, Hitman into this or Hitman into this. Even though, yes, this is a great move. It has a lot of evasion. Like, look at how much Lee is crouching right there. He's fucking crouching the shit out of the place. There's no way a high is going to connect there, right? So, and that's the design of that move. Very solid for catching people that are trying to jab check you. You also have, like I said, this one, very solid power crush. Great on hit as well, because it guarantees a follow-up, you know, that snap your neck type of shit that he does. It goes into a throw. So, good moves, but apply them appropriately. You know, it's not good to just throw that shit out because you think it might work. And that's the one bad habit I think that League players do, is they just the Hitman flow charts. So take it easy on those, and already that's an improvement to your game plan. League players are generally pretty fucking good Tekken players. At least from the God-ranked League players that I fight. Leo is another difficult one to think about, but I think the main two things I can say right now is Leo players who just will flowchart into, you know, into stance shit. And the stance is great, but you don't necessarily just want to do that, because that stance, this stance especially, very, very interruptible. You can almost always hit them out of this this stance here. So be more mindful of this. Like when you're trying to run your offense with back 3-1 into stance, just be aware of the fact that you can, this is fake pressure. So a bad habit is just constantly trying to go into stance after string into next hit out of stance. Especially when your opponent's already shown you that they can counter hit you out of the stance. There's multiple Leo players that I've come across online who they just don't really know how to transition into stance properly, and because people don't realize that stance pressure a lot of the time with Leo is fake, they can interrupt it, at least with this stance. Not with this one. This is a god stance. This stance right here, so fucking good. But this one, a lot of the transitions that Leo has, like back 3-1, can be interrupted. Back 3-1 into whatever that stance is called, Boku stance, not a very good stance. For that, in that regard, it's a great stance in the way that a lot of the moves are basically you can't beat them. There's +5 on block, 13 frame mid that can actually do some pretty decent damage there. There's a full launch that's actually safe. So Leo has some pretty strong moves out of that stance, but the trade-off is that stance is usually fake pressure, especially when you transition into it from back 3-1. The other bad habit I see with Leo players is just while standing 1+2 randomly. Like, I'll hit them with Kazuya 4-4-3, which puts the opponent in crouch, and the Leo player will mash out while standing 1+2. I don't know why. They're only -3, but they're mashing that out like they're I'm -11. And that's a bad habit I think a lot of Leo players do. I know they catch a lot of people with that move while standing 1+2, but just doing it, you're putting yourself in harm's way. You're at -12 at the end of that, and there's no way people are going to see that and not punish you for it. right? It's a big-ass string that's easy to see. All you have to do is stand there, wait till it's over, and then block punish. Easy. So why are you just throwing it out for no reason? Like it's a decent neutral tool. It's not. While standing 4 is Leo's 11-frame while standing punish. While standing 4 1+2 is a fantastic heat engager that you should use as an 11-frame punish, not just a move that you throw out on the neutral because. So, bad habits with Leo. Try to get that shit out of your repertoire. Be more safe with your Boku stance transitions, and don't just randomly while standing 4 1+2 because. Leroy's pretty straightforward with the bad habits I've seen Leroy players do. Leroy loves to, Leroy players love back 2. It's a great parry. It's 5 frames. It activates in 5 frames. It's fantastic fucking parry. But people should be using this parry when they're like -5 or, -7, because then a 12-frame move plus will be interrupted by the parry and you'll get your damage. But just throwing it out because they'll throw out the down forward 1 and then they'll parry. That's not a bad application because down forward 1's only -6 on block, right? So if it's blocked, they parry. Anything that comes out in 11 frames or slower from the opponent is going to get eaten up by the parry. Smart play. But if you're doing like orbital into parry, or if you're at -9 and you just got hit and now you decide to parry, or say nothing's happening, you're just in the neutral and you're moving around and you just do this. I've seen so many Leroy players just throw this shit out. Why? You haven't even set the parry up. You've done nothing to deserve the parry. You've done nothing to ensure that I'm gonna eat the parry. Like, come on. Apply it appropriately. That's a bad habit for Leroy players. The parry is a fucking incredible move. It's one of the best parries in the game. It used to be a 3-frame parry, now it's 5. It got nerfed. But it's still a fantastic fucking parry. It's faster than power crushes, it's faster than most other reversals. It's way faster than rage arts. Like, his parry is fantastic. So you just have to, apply it appropriately. If you're not using it right. That's a bad habit. Use Leroy's parry correctly. Lidia is pretty similar to Leo in that a lot of Lidia players will just throw out, her pressure as if it's guaranteed. Like, say your opponent just ducked horse stance 1, and now you transition into stalking wolf and you do 1 again. But say they duck your horse stance 1, and you're still transitioning into, stalking wolf. That's fine. Just don't mash after that. Stalking wolf stance. You're still mashing. They just ducked the horse stance 1, and now you're dead. Bad habit to just try to apply the stance pressure willy-nilly because it's all fake pressure. It doesn't really exist. So apply it effectively. Apply it once you've earned the right. It's like wave dashing almost. It's not necessarily safe, but for the Kazuya player, or in this case for the Lidia player, but if you're in your opponent's head and you've earned the right to do that, now they're respecting you, you've conditioned them a little bit, that's when you can start throwing out the massive stance pressure and Lidia becomes a monster character. But just to do it in the start when you've not really seen if your opponent is equipped to deal with the stances correctly, you haven't identified that yet, and you're already spamming the stance pressure when you don't even know that your opponent can beat you out of it? I mean, just chill on that. Bad habit to start just throwing it out before you even know what the fuck's going on that round. The other thing that Lidia players do a lot of them do, is just throwing out 3-2 in the neutral. Standing 3-2. Great move. Safe on block. It's Lydia's go-to standing 15-frame launch punish. It has solid fucking range. Why wouldn't you just try to throw it out? Well, because the second hit is duckable. It's a high. So just don't throw that shit out randomly. Anybody who's worth their salt is gonna see that shit, immediately duck, and kill you for it. So randomly throwing out 3-2 in the neutral, not a good call. So fake stance pressure for Lidia. Don't just apply it needlessly without understanding how your opponent likes to play first. Get to the point where you are able to initiate the stance pressure because they respect you now and you've conditioned them to respect the stance pressure. And then same thing for 3-2. Don't use it as a random poke in the middle of the neutral. It's your 15-frame launch punish. So use it as a whiff punisher, or use it at -15 for launchers as your launcher. That's what its utility is for. It's not just something you should throw out because. That's not. Every move in this game has a purpose. Neutral tool is, this move is not. Okay? So, apply her tools more effectively and you will see a lot more success with Lidia. She's a very strong character. So Lili is a tricky one as well. Typically Lilis are pretty good players, but this moves a lot of players that use Lili will abuse this shit randomly and this shit randomly. This is safe on block at -7. This is a good move, but you need to apply it effectively. Just throwing this out, look how unsafe you are. They can backdash out of the way, one or two little backdashes from a Korean backdash, and you are fucking dead, my friend. So applying that move when it's a good time to apply it is smart. And honestly, with Matterhorn, just this shit here is, I don't see a reason to ever really use this move. This is a trash move. It's -21 on block. Why? Lili's got such good shit. Why do you need to use this? She's got a decent hop kick, too. You don't need Matterhorn. If you're going to sidestep launch punish something, sidestep hop kick. Especially with Lili, her sidestep is amazing. Why the fuck are you wasting your opportunity on Matterhorn just because it high crushes? Terrible. So does the hop kick. Hop kick also high crushes, and it low crushes. So, you know, it doesn't high crush everything, but it high crushes jabs, which is what most people are going to use for checking you. And the other thing I can say is her homing move from over here. A lot of Lili players will just throw this shit out from way back here because it's got insane range and it's homing and it's safe, but it's high and it's so telegraphed. As soon as you're at this range, I know you're either going to do this, which is a really fucking stupid bullshit move that you should be using, not this. Because this has some decent tracking. It launches for full hit, on normal hit, or full combo, I mean not full hit, on normal hit, and it covers virtually the same distance the other move does. So why are you using this shit when you can use this and be way better off? You're completely safe here. There's nothing your opponent can do. Nothing. So they can't punish you with shit. So why not just abuse the crap out of that move and forego using this trash? You know, use it at this range if you're gonna use it at all. I know it's a heat engager, but that's the only time really you should use it is when you're already in heat, in my opinion. It's a really slow move, it's telegraphed as fuck, and it's just not worth risking your life for because it doesn't do enough, in my opinion. It's too high risk and not high enough a reward. Because at this range, I know what you're going to do. You got two options you're going to do. So as soon as I see this, I'm going to duck and launch you. If I think you're going to go for this, you know, they have very different animations. I can fuzzy guard this so easily. So don't even bother doing it from that range. You know, you can apply it more effectively. So those are my bad habits for Lili players that I think a lot of you should learn from. Nina is next up, and it's pretty straightforward. There's nothing really to it with Nina. It's this shit. No. Just this type of shit all day. Fucking, what else is there? All these strings. Garbage. All of them. Get them the fuck out of your repertoire. Not good. Terrible strings. These are all not good strings. So there you go. Nina players. Stop killing yourselves by using horrible strings. There's no reason to. This shit. Heat engager. Safe. -9 on block. But it's a high. So you die for attempting it against a player that's somewhat decent. Same with this shit. Can opener is not a good string. No matter, you can do it one time and I will react to it immediately and kill you for it. I'm not exaggerating. I will do that to you if you attempt can opener, because I've seen the string more than enough times that I know to recognize it, identify it, duck, and launch your ass every single fucking time. Same with this trash. I will launch you as soon as you attempt it once. In our first match ever. I am not exaggerating. You can quote me on that. These strings are trash. Stop abusing them like they're safe, because they're not. These are all garbage. The one exception, I think, is this string. Because it's only -6, it's a 14 frame move, or sorry, it's a 12 frame move, so you gotta, this is a 12 frame punish. It's a homing move, amazing fucking move, and the second hit jails, so you cannot duck the second hit. Same with down forward 1-2. Down forward 1-2 jails. So even though the 2 is a high, I can't duck it. So use these. Don't use this shit. You know? Don't use fucking that shit. Or this shit. Don't finish the string. Do something more fucking practical. Do some good Nina pressure. Eliminate her garbage strings from your repertoire. Horrible bad habit that Nina players will do up to Tekken God, and I'm not exaggerating with that. It's insane how bad some Nina players are with that habit. It is fucking brutal. And then they send me. I'm the guy that gets the hate mail of like, oh, all you do is spam while standing 2. No shit. You just keep doing the same string. It's a high. I kill you with while standing 2, Demon Godfist with Kazuya, because it ensures me 100 damage combo every time you fucking do stupid shit. And you did it all the entire fucking match. So what do you think I'm gonna do? Idiot. You know, like, stop sending my ass hate mail because you're the fucking moron that won't stop abusing these dumbass strings. I'm talking to like 90% of Nina players out there now. You know, if you're a respectable Nina player, cool, I'm not talking to you, but if you're the typical kind of bullshit Nina player that abuses those strings and then sends the person hate mail for fucking kicking the shit out of you because they know how to deal with those bullshit strings, then you're a bitch, and either stop playing the game Tekken or listen to the advice that I have and stop using those bullshit strings. Learn how to improve on the game, okay? I'm tired of getting fucking hate mail messages because I beat your Nina. It's fucking stupid, man. From God of Destruction Nina players too. Like, what is that? So, anyways, that's my advice to you Nina players, and I think you should take it. Paul is a little bit similar to Nina in that sense. Paul has a lot of strings that people love to use. You know, high shit. Like, all this stuff is unsafe, right? And on top of that, improper Death Fist application. Death Fist is a great move. You want to apply it appropriately, right? You don't want to just throw it out. I think what most players should try to do with Paul is wait until you're in heat to use Death Fist. Personally speaking. You can definitely use it as a long-range whip punish, which I think the main application is for Death Fist is either sidestep whip punish into Death Fist, although I would prefer down forward 2, or long-range whip punish, or once you're in heat it becomes safe, so use it then. But in tandem with the heat dash, obviously. But the main shit that I see with Paul is these strings are bad. Stop doing this type of shit, you know? This is mid-high. You don't need to do this shit either, because you can just do, you know, mid, and then another high. Mid, into another mid. But the problem with this string is it's fuzzy guardable, so I can immediately duck the high and then stand right back up in time to block the mid. And then I punish you with -13 crouching punish, because I'm in crouching status here, right? So the issue, I think, with Paul players, especially newer Paul players, is strings that are unsafe. So they're going to immediately fuzzy guard, and then they're going to stand right back up, and then they're going to kill you for it. So it's not a good string to abuse, the 4-4-2 strings. You know, make sure that you apply them correctly. And same with 3-2. You know, you can do 3-2 and cancel into other shit, but it's same with down forward 1-1. You don't have to extend the string. Down forward 1's good enough alone. You can do down forward 1 into sway. You know, at that point it's -3, or it's +3 for Paul. So you have options. Don't just abuse the bullshit. Like, all that is crap. Everybody's gonna kill you for doing all that shit. Same with this stuff. They're just gonna kill you for even attempting it. And then applying your Death Fist appropriately, like just throwing it out in the neutral. You're at -17 here. I can long range punish you for that and get probably Heat Engager. Some characters can even launch you for that, like Reina, for example. Her down forward 2, super easy and reaches all that distance without even trying, and for a full launch. So just throwing out Death Fist like that willy-nilly is not a good idea. You need to do it appropriately. So, bad habits with Paul, but Paul players in general are really, really solid Tekken players, in my opinion. And Paul is not the easiest character to use, so I think that these bad habits really only apply to a small portion of the Paul community, but they certainly apply to a lot of people that I've come across. So, there you go. Raven, again, a lot of Raven players are pretty talented Tekken players. Raven is a very difficult character to pilot, and he's not very strong right now. But the issue I have with Raven players that I'm seeing a lot of is this shit. You know? This shit. Just throwing out the clones willy-nilly like they're safe. They're -14 on block every time. The only time that they're good is when you're in heat. They're -3. But they're still they're still unsafe and not in heat they're safe, but you don't get to capitalize on any pressure because you're at -3. It's their turn. Yeah, theoretically you can like parry after that. You know, this shit in heat into parry will most of the time interrupt a lot of shit your opponent's gonna do. But throwing out your clones like this when you're not even in heat and having that be a maiden part of your toolkit, not very smart in my opinion. This shit, even though it's an amazing 14 frame punish, the fact that down forward 1 tracks to both sides very heavily with Raven is even a nice bonus, but you really just want to throw this out as a punish, not just because you want to poke. You know, if you're gonna poke, just down forward 1, end it there. Maybe apply the clone once you realize that, hey, they like to press right after I finish my down forward 1. They like to press all the time. If I do down forward 1-4, maybe they'll fucking get hit by the clone. So be more intelligent with how you place the clones. A lot of, like, they're -14. You're gonna die from a lot of players in a lot of characters in the cast from throwing out clones needlessly. So Raven players that do that a lot, you guys should cut that shit out. It's not worth it. Reina is pretty straightforward. It's this type of shit. Just before you even hit confirm, you're already initiating the Sentai 3 with 442. Not hit confirming the 442 right then into Sentai 3 is a bad habit. Reina is insanely strong. She's the strongest Mishima in the game, next to Jin, if you consider him a Mishima. Reina is still very much the strongest Mishima in the game. You do not need to risk your life at all when you play this character. So why are you just 4-4-2-3? When you don't even know that it's going to connect. You don't even know that Sentai or 4-4-2 connected. All you know is that you're going to throw it out and then you're going to immediately do Sentai 3. Don't do that, because a lot of the time your opponent can just block the 4-4-2, immediately duck, and launch your Sentai 3. Especially if you've shown them once that you already like to do 4-4-2 into Sentai 3. At least do this a couple of times. Well, not even that, because they can duck and kill you for that one too, but you know, at least do this a couple of times. Something that's not just the high or the low. Just to ensure that you're in their head a little bit, and you're making them guess. Oh, okay, well, maybe they're not going to throw out the 3. Oh, they did? Okay, well, now I know to potentially duck next time. Don't just throw it out. Hit confirm the fucking thing. It's a lot easier to do than you think. Just practice that stuff and you'll get it. The other thing I can say is, Reinas that love to do this shit abuse these strings. Very, very unsafe garbage. Minus 14 every time, right? So, yes, it's a good move if it connects. But most of the time when it doesn't connect, they try to finish the string anyways. They don't just end it with this, which is only minus 8, or with this, which is minus 15, but no one's going to press anything because they're afraid of that. So, abusing her unsafe strings, why? It's Reina. She's one of the safest characters in the game with some amazing neutral control and some amazing pokes that leave her completely safe or outright give her advantage. She's also got a fucking electric. So what are you doing, being unsafe with a character that's got all this safe shit? Cut it out. Alright, she's a really strong character and you're killing yourself every time you do stupid shit like that. So don't make those tools a main part of your go-to repertoire when you're trying to run your offense and open your opponent up. Don't needlessly finish strings that you don't know are going to connect. Don't throw Sentai 3 out when you don't even know that Raiden is going to connect. You're just going to die. So, Reina players, incorporate more Mishima shit into your game plan. Stop relying on the waifu stuff so much. Yes, I know it's effective, but she's a fucking Mishima. Do you have any idea how good that is? She can deal some damage and she doesn't need to risk her life for it at all, unlike Kazuya and Heihachi who risk their lives all the fucking time when they try to run their offense. You don't need to do that with Reina. So, why are you doing it? Alright, so Shaheen is, I don't really know, to be honest. Shaheen is probably the hardest character I can think of because this character is, in my opinion, Shaheen is probably the most perfect character in the game. He has everything. He has amazing pressure tools. You know, he's got a really nice 50-50 mix-up. You know, he's got incredible homing moves. He's got solid poking fundamentals. He's got decent low pokes. Easy mode launchers. Safe launchers, in fact. He's got a fucking guard break, which I can't remember how to do, but what is it like? There you go. This in Heat is a guard break. He's got everything. So the main thing I can think of with Shaheen is that I remember a lot of Shaheen players doing, and that I think is unnecessary given the fact of everything I've just said, is over-reliance on slide. Like, you don't need to rely on slide that much. He's got decent pokes with his lows. You know, down 4 is not bad, down 3 is okay. You know, and then you've got reasons to duck him with forward 4 being so strong. And then you can just keep them in check all fucking day with safe, really solid, small Tekken tools. And then when you finally do get a launch, you get some crazy damage on top of that. Shaheen is a perfect character. He's sitting very firmly in S tier. Because he's basically like, he's got a game plan like you want to 50-50 with Shaheen. But you can play him so compact and so small Tekken-like. You don't need to 50-50 with the character. A lot of Shaheen players are under the impression that he's a 50-50 machine, and yeah, he can be, but you can also poke your opponent to death. You can also outmaneuver them. You know, but you can also keep up the pressure. There are so many tools with Shaheen that are just fucking incredible. Oh, back 3, I mean, fuck, dude. Up forward 1. Yeah, he's got such great moves. Forward 4 to keep them in check is one of the best homing moves in the game. This guarantees a follow-up. It's only -2 on block. It's 15 frames to impact. It's a homing move, and back 4 is guaranteed after if you connect with it. So there's a reason for people to block you, or to duck you, sorry. So why are you forcing them to... You don't need to rely on slide too much. So the over-reliance on slide and playing Shaheen unsafe when he's got some of the safest, most reliable, best, perfect toolkit in the game. He has everything any player needs to win Evo. I'm not exaggerating. This is one of the strongest characters in Tekken 8, period. You don't need to play this character unsafe. He has everything you need to play him completely safe and secure the win every fucking round. So, the biggest habit I can say about Shaheen for Shaheen players is stop needlessly playing him so unsafe when he's a perfect character. Only do his safe shit and you'll be fine. You know, throw out the slides now and again, but don't rely on them too much because you've got such amazing tools that will make it so that slide is almost not necessary. Scare the shit out of them into respecting you, and then start spamming the slides and eat them all for breakfast. That's a takeaway I think Shaheen players should get, is just stop playing so unsafe. It's totally unnecessary with this fucking amazing character. So like Shaheen, Steve is extremely amazing. Like, he's a fucking great character. You don't need to fucking play this guy unsafe at all. Like, look at this trash. You know, down forward 2 is an amazing counter hit tool that you can make fucking -2. Back 1, you can make it, it's unsafe if you just hit back 1, it's -14, but back 1 into flicker stance is -1. So don't play Steve unsafe. 1-2-1 into peekaboo is -2. You know, you've got such great tools with Steve that he's just, playing him unsafe at all in any scenario is strange to me. So many Steve players, I mean, this is fine to throw out, but if you're not, you know, if you're doing this type of shit, and this type of shit, and this type of shit, you know, this is safe on block, but it's so slow. This is a decent launch if you're thinking your opponent's gonna go low or try to throw you or something. It'll jump over all that shit, so it low crushes. But that's the only utility for it. Throwing this shit out just randomly, you're -12, like that type of shit. Try to just avoid doing those things needlessly. That's a bad habit with Steve, because you're playing one of the safest characters in the game. He's got nothing that's really going to put himself in any danger. The trade-off is Steve doesn't get a whole lot of damage if you don't press into Steve. So in order for Steve to get his game plan going, you need to play unsafe. So, just for that concept alone, don't play into Steve's hands. But then don't start, as a Steve player, don't start playing unsafe because you want to open your opponent up more. You don't need to do that with Steve. Play safer, and don't just throw out random shit like up forward 3, and while standing 1, 1+2, while standing 1-2, just because. And, you know, if you do something like this, say you're in peekaboo stance, you know, and you throw out stuff like that, finishing strings that are -11 on block, not the greatest idea in the world, right? So it's a detriment to yourself as a Steve player throwing out shit that's like that. You don't need to do it. He's such a safe character. Keep yourself safe. You're playing fucking Steve. Oh, Victor. Victor is straightforward. Stop letting Victor carry you to high ranks by doing Victor shit. Learn some proper tech and stuff. You know, that's the bad habit, I think, is just learning Victor stuff. You know, I see high-ranked Victor players doing stuff like this. Doing stuff like this. You know, you don't need to do that. Abuse the crazy shit that's safe. You know, it's crazy that so many Victor players will just play extremely unsafe for no reason, but also it's just because the Victor mash is so effective in the low ranks. And a bad habit is just relying on Victor mash to get you where you want to be. If you want to get good at Tekken and not just be good at Victor, then you need to learn Tekken, and Victor isn't going to really teach you that stuff. because he's so streamlined for new players, and he's so straightforward. He is the easiest character in Tekken history. I've never seen a character so easy in my experience playing this franchise, and I've been playing since Tekken 1. Victor is so simplified for everyone. But the point of that is to get people give people an introduction to the game of Tekken by giving them a character like this. He's tailor-made for new players. But then don't just rely on Victor's epic, awesome shit to get you to the higher ranks. The bad habit with Victor is succumbing to Victor Mash and not understanding why it is you're losing. Make sure that you if you're going to use Victor Mash, learn some Tekken with that, because it will carry you very far, but it's a bad habit to just let Victor carry you on his own. So Xiaoyu is a fucking weird character, man. She's one of those specialist characters that the Xiaoyu players are some of the most interesting people in the Tekken community. They seem to be the only ones that are oblivious to how strong their character is, and seem to get super offended when you say stuff like, like, for example, this shit. Like how that's balanced. Like, come on. It's fucking not balanced at all. And you can't say it is. AOP, not balanced at all. This shit goes under lows. Down, Hwoarang down 3, test that shit. This goes under that move. That shouldn't go under any low in the game. I don't care if it's an anomaly or not. Period. No lows at all. So she's a very strong character, but what's a bad habit you can get into with Xiaoyu? Well, advancing unsafely with Kali roll is fucking stupid. Any low hitting, mid hitting move that's a decent move for hitting super low to the ground, like Kazuya tsunami kicks, for example, down forward 4-4, are going to hit Xiaoyu out of that stance. And you're just gonna eat shit for breakfast all day. And she has a parry out of that stance that can prevent you from hitting her with those mids. But just advancing so unsafely like this with California roll, bad habit to get into. And then the other thing I can say is a bad habit is just spamming this shit when it's not your turn. So, yes, it's an 8-frame mid. 8-frame mid that keeps your opponent in check. Very fucking good move. It's like her flash with Yoshimitsu, and we'll get to him in a little bit, but just trying to maintain your turn at all times with Xiaoyu. Xiaoyu players are pretty guilty for this because she has a lot of natural evasion. She has the smallest hurt box in the game, so it's hard to hit her in general. And then on top of that, she has fast-ass moves like this that keep you in check and keep her safe while stealing your turn away. But relying on that shit too often is gonna get you killed. And then trying to advance too often with this shit is, again, another bad habit with Xiaoyu players that I see a lot of people try to do that's gonna get you killed. So, try to remove some of that needless, unsafe bullshit from your repertoire and repertoire, fucking whatever I just said, and play her a little more like Xiaoyu, abuse her bullshit. Just AOP, just fucking hypnotist, just fucking do her heat shit. She's an amazing S-tier fucking character. One of the strongest characters in the game, easily top 10 best in the game right now. You don't need to be super unsafe and needlessly potentially killing yourself just because you want to try to get a Kali launch. And you don't need to always try to steal your turn back with this shit. This can get counter hit if you don't time it right. If you're at -9 and you try to do this because, your opponent just hit you with a plus frame attack and you're mashing this shit, you can get counter hit launched. So be more alert and aware of what's going on screen. Don't just mash out of turn. Bad habit with Xiaoyu is doing those two things specifically, I find, with a lot of players. Even all the way up to Tekken God right now. So, there you go. So Yoshimitsu is obvious, okay? Yoshimitsu is flash spam and spin spam. It'll get you the fuck out of dodge. Especially if you do two of them. Holy fuck, does that cover a lot of distance. This into back to 2. great combination because it can create a potential whip punish. But the problem is, as soon as someone knows you're going to do this shit, they're going to read it and they're going to try to... They're going to fuck you up for it. Even Flash, it's minus 15 on block. So, and on whiff, it's actually a lot more recoverable than you think. Flash is not that unsafe on whiff. It's trickier than you think to punish it on reaction. Especially if you think that it's coming out, but you're not sure that it's going to come out, and they delay it for a second, and then they do it, and you're like, oh fuck, they did Flash. Okay, 13 frame punish because I'm late, and it still doesn't work. So, it's a better move than you think, and Flash spam is one of the reasons Yoshimitsu is in contention for being the best character in the game right now. Him and Dragunov are currently competing for the #1 spot in a lot of players' minds. I'm not quite there with Yoshi yet. I think he's like top 3. I still think Dragunov and Nina are a little stronger than Yoshi, but not by much. Yoshi has not had as much tournament success as those two characters, so I can't rightfully put him in the top spot. But we don't know yet. It's still early. The game's not even a year old. We have yet to dive into the full bullshit of what this game's all about, and relying too much on Flash and too much on spin is going to deteriorate your brain to the point where you're just going to be doing those things as your go-to defensive tools, and you'll almost completely forget that you can, backdash, you can block. There's a Tekken content creator called Moonsault Slayer, or Volskimmer in as his actual name. And I respect the guy as a content creator. I watch all his videos. He's great at reporting news. But he's a very, very low-level Yoshimitsu player who makes great use of abusing these tools, and is currently sitting at, I think, Tekken King, but has made to Tekken God before. He got Tekken God with Yoshimitsu and is now demoted to Tekken King. But that's how high that this character brought him, because he's good at abusing this bullshit. However, now he's getting demoted, now he's plateauing, and I'm sorry to pick on you, brother. I'm really not trying to do that, but I'm just giving you as an example of what abusing the wrong tools and not learning proper fundamentals can do to somebody. It's gonna plateau you, and it's gonna hurt, and you're gonna start getting demoted, and you're gonna feel bad about it. It's gonna suck. So a bad habit is just abusing this shit needlessly. Doing it on a hard read and creating a whip punish scenario is brilliant. That's Tekken. But just doing it because you're unsure of what's going to happen next, or you think your opponent's going to mash, you shouldn't have to do it on a guess. That's going to kill you most often. So, Yoshimitsu's Flash and Yoshimitsu's Spin are amazing tools that you should use as Yoshi players, but abusing them is a bad habit and will get you killed more often than not, and will also plateau you, as evidenced by the guy that I just referenced. So, again, Moonsault Slayer, shout out to that guy. Go subscribe to his channel. Fantastic YouTube content creator. But has succumbed to a lot of Yoshi bullshit, I'm sorry to say. He's let the gimmicks carry him up to those ranks, and now he's starting to pay for it. And I just want everyone to not have to deal with that shit. So that's why I'm saying stop relying on this shit as a go-to, because it is a bad habit that evidently will punish you in the long run. Last but not least, we got Zafina here. I love this character. I dabble with Zafina a little bit. I mostly play quick matches with her, but I appreciate her design. She's interesting to me. The thing about Zafina, a lot of Zafina players, what they'll do is, most people in Tekken, most players right now, don't know the matchup for Zafina, right? Most of us don't. Let's be real. That's the reason I picked her up and started learning her, is because I wanted to know the matchup, and I know the matchup now, and it's great. But most people don't, and because of that, Zafina players are able to get away with shit like this, with finishing strings that they shouldn't be able to, because they're unsafe. Look at this shit, minus 18 on block with a little bit of pushback, and in the neutral, without a wall, that's where she lands. Little bit of pushback, but still very, very much launch punishable. This shit, very, very much launch punishable by the entire cast. She's minus 17. The slowest launch from while standing is 16 frames. So everybody can launch that shit, right? 1-2-1, minus 13. Finishing strings with Zafina is a classic trait because nobody knows the matchup, so she can get away with stuff like that. People not ducking her shit because nobody knows that you're supposed to duck that. You know, stuff like this. People are going to abuse that. She doesn't need to do these strings in the neutral, and she shouldn't do them in the neutral. They're not safe. Almost all of Zafina's strings, barring like this one, is punishable on block, if not all full-on launch punishable. So Zafina players, a bad habit with them is finishing those strings that get them killed. So my advice to Zafina players, and especially if you want to, not plateau at in the gold ranks, is or even blue ranks for a lot of these Zafina players that are really struggling right now because you get so used to the idea that no one understands the matchup, so you can get away with fucking murder, right? Cool. Raven players, that's the same reason they throw out those clones that are minus 14 on block, because no one knows the matchup. Very few, purple and below ranked players are not going to be punishing that shit. They don't understand that that's not safe. So, and a lot of the strings, when they do get finished, this one, for example, is a low, so it's effective. It'll kill a lot of players. This is the last hit of that string. Some players like to throw it out because it's a mid and it's a counter hit launch, and some people want to press into shit. So, but the thing is, the second hit of this string is a high. So no matter what, as soon as I see the forward 2 come out, I'm gonna duck immediately, and I'm gonna launch you. Because I don't want you doing your shit. I don't want you doing fucking this. That's gonna kill me if I try to press anything, right? So the power crush is gonna kill and launch. And this is gonna counter hit launch. So what am I gonna do? I'm gonna cut out the middleman and just kill you after the second hit. So those unsafe strings that Zafina does, stop being in the habit of finishing them, even stuff like this. Looks like it's safe. It's not safe. It's minus 12. So stop abusing unsafe strings with Zafina, even though nobody punishes them. Eventually you're going to meet somebody who does, and you're going to be like, oh shit, how do I not use those strings? They're so locked into my memory banks that the fucking flowcharts I have include those unsafe strings. So get rid of the flowcharts and stop finishing those strings needlessly. Stick to a safer game plan. Abuse the fuck out of this move. Her down 3 is amazing. It's very, very slightly reactable by the majority of, high-level Korean players, but that's about it. You're not going to be able to react to her down 3 most of the time. Most players aren't, especially if they're looking for it. And most characters can launch it. So, just be careful of that as a Zafina player, but down 3 is fucking plus on hit, so it's an amazing tool that you should spam and place well in tandem with her good mids. Your down forward 1's not too bad, it's minus 5, but she has extensions, so no one's going to really press after it. You can stay somewhat safe with Zafina. So why put yourself in not only harm's way, but in launch punish harm's way needlessly? It's not necessary. That about does it. That was a pretty cool video to make. I thought I'd try my hand on what my opinions were, on making a video about what my opinions were on bad habits in this game, and going over every single character, and I just touched on the surface level of bad habits. There are bad habits and characters can teach you that apply to everybody, but just at first glance, me playing against all the characters in the game all this time, those are the habits that I noticed in my journey. And I hope that helps. So what I can request from you guys now, please leave a like and a comment in the thing below. I would really appreciate it. It helps me out big time in the algorithm. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. Join the Discord. Links in the description. everything that you need for everything. Literally, the links are always in the description. So just check that shit out. And yeah, thanks so much again. Share the video around, hit that subscribe button, and I will see you on the next one, everybody. So till then, keep rocking out and keep gaming.